Now, Tanner, we're excited that you came all this way to be with us for today's podcast. And as most of our listeners already know, people tune into this podcast for the hard-hitting facts. We're the podcast who likes to ask the tough questions. So I prepared a list of questions to ask you, and we hope that we can get a few things cleared up. So number one, Tanner, what is a podcast?
A podcast is, to me, a podcast is basically just a conversation. Mm-hmm. A long-form conversation, depending on, I don't know, it's just two guys or two gals or whatever the fuck it is shooting the shit for a couple hours. And I don't know, what would you say a podcast is? Because it's different from an interview. I don't know the differences between
It's a radio show. It's a janky radio show.
But a radio show has music. So a podcast...
Not necessarily. Not if it's AM. Anyway, what's your favorite color?
Blue.
All right.
What is the average velocity of a sparrow?
You mean a swallow?
A swallow.
Oh, swallow, yeah.
I'm just kidding. I didn't have any hard-hitting questions.
I don't know that. No.
Yeah?
African or European?
See? There you go.
No, Tanner, I want to learn a little bit more about your band, how long it's been around. These are probably questions I asked in season 1, but I want to refresh everybody because, I'm not asking people to listen to that episode back in season 1. We weren't that good back then. So I want to reintroduce everybody to Tanner, Poppitt's Corner, Madrost. So we're going to start with all that, and then we'll play some of your music, and then we'll play one of my new songs that we have at my band coming out towards the end of that, and that'll be that for music highlights. But how old is Madrost? Like, when did you first start? Because it's been a while, no?
Well, so we started in 2007. Okay. So it's been 15 years at this point. Mm-hmm. And it's amazing that a band could last that long in this day and age. Any particular like major member lineups throughout the years? Member lineups as far as reintroducing people that have added more to the band than other actual band members coming in and out. I think the lineup we have now is the most solid. Okay. But in terms of like creative input, these guys have brought the most in terms of that goes, because it was a lot of me on the first two kind of albums. So obviously, Essence of Time, that's why it's so different, because it's my influences and Big Cat, aka Necro Nix. So it was the first time that we kind of wrote as a team. Yeah. And it was nice to have that team dynamic. And it's been that iteration ever since? Correct, yeah. Okay. And this is what year? This is around 2016, 2017. Okay. So it's been holding strong for a few years now. Yeah. Nice. Right on. Yeah, it's not easy holding on to some great creative minds who actually like to contribute. Well, you're in obviously the Fallen Electric and whatnot. So you're not only you're going to have to carry, you said a 3-piece. So you're not only going to have to carry the show in terms of being a guitar player, because I'm assuming you didn't lose the drummer. No. So my point is that those kind of member changes I haven't had in a while, and you're going through the growing pains again, which sucks. Yeah, and I think it's an ongoing thing. Like it's a living, breathing thing. Like it doesn't have to, as long I guess, because this can be discussed with other bands. Like we just most recently we got Smash Mouth got a new singer because the old guy quit, I think they kicked him out because he was just drunk all the time. So yeah, the guy who fucking sings All Star and Walking on the Sun, they pretty much the soundtrack to the first Shrek movie. He's gone. He's out. And they got this other cat, and he sounds pretty close to the real thing. But is it the same band without this lead singer? Well, can it still continue? Yeah, I think Journey's proven that point. Yeah. Well, Arnel Pineda sounds just as good or better than Steve Perry. So it just depends on. Yeah. I don't know. I think it just depends on the band. Because,
for instance, what's it called? What's their names? Queen. That has Adam, whatever the heck his name is. Adam Lambert. Adam Lambert. Yeah, he's the lead singer. Well, but they're still going by Queen. Well, but it's Queen and Adam Lambert. Right, just like Sublime with Rome. Oh, right. It's one of those things. And I'm in the minority. I like that guy with Sublime. Rome? Yeah, no, he's good. I see on the internet a lot of people give him shit. Well, it's just because he's not Bradley. And of course, he's what are you expecting? Like, it's not Bradley, and I don't think he's trying to do a Bradley impression. He's doing himself. He sounds sort of like Bradley, but not really. Well, the problem is those guys are dead.
Freddie Mercury and Brad. They're dead.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure that's part of it.
So, but in terms of like Smash Mouth and bands like that are still alive, that's where you kind of have the divide. Because again, Steve Perry's still alive, and I'm talking in the Journey camp. So that's when that whole thing happened. A lot of people.
Or what's that guy's name from Circus Survive?
Anthony Green.
Anthony Green. He was also in that other band, right?
He's in Seosin.
And
then left for Circus Survive. And then Seosin got a new band.
And then they got a new singer. Yeah. And people still accepted that.
Yeah.
Different kind of band, though.
Yeah.
They're not in the mainstream compared to Sublime or a Smash Mouth.
Yeah.
They those bands, Journey, perfect example.
Oh, Blink-182.
Queen.
Oh, right. They got rid of Tom DeLonge.
Tom DeLonge.
They got Matt Skiba now. And that's been interesting. It's been a different twist for Blink in the last few years, but whatever.
I mean, you still have Mark and Travis.
But you still have the records. See, I just go back to the records.
Yeah, of course.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
How much does nostalgia play into how people make their decisions in terms of accepting a band too, though?
100%.
Yeah.
That's where you start, I think. If we want to get into somebody's psyche with their song choices on their playlist, it's going to be something familiar. It always is. And that's why, it's kind of hard to break a new sound. Like, it's got to be so revolutionary that it's really kind of turning heads. Well, don't you think?
But at that point, you either get one of two things. A lot of backlash for it, or a lot of people not even knowing what to do about it.
Well, I mean, we can trace that argument back to the Beatles.
Correct.
Everybody was like, people who weren't about it were not about it, and they were pretty vocal about it. I mean, we got some examples in the South where they were just banning it from the radio stations. And it happened with all kinds of blues music too, even before that. But yeah, dude, it's
happened with Elvis.
Oh yeah, even Elvis. Yeah, when he was coming out.
Yeah.
I'd like to get a female perspective on this because I know you have a more different eclectic styles of music that you like to listen to. So what is your take as far as, let's just go with a band that created nostalgia for you personally, maybe in your teens or 20s or something. Right. Do you still accept that specific band with a different front man / front woman? And give me an example of one. I sorry to take over the show, but I opinion on it.
Doing a better job than this guy.
Thank you for including me in the conversation. These guys like to walk all over me every once in a while.
What?
I'm just kidding.
Wait, hold on. There's a woman here?
Whoa. So when they mentioned Circus Survive, Seosin with Anthony Green leaving. So I was really into that scene back in the 2000s. And so when Anthony Green left Seosin for Circus Survive, I gave it a chance with the new frontman. But essentially, the writing became different. The sound was different. And so I didn't really appreciate the music as much. And I kind of went away from listening to the band itself and sort of followed the singer to his other projects. So I don't know if that happens with a lot of other bands, that you guys like.
I think that happens more often than not because I only can name like a couple examples where the band got even bigger, like an AC/DC or Van Halen, something like that.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
With a new
singer.
I'm just talking front man.
Yeah.
Like Black Sabbath.
Well, Blink-182 isn't bigger than what they were with Tom.
No. Right, if anything, they're still just kind of.
They're just trying to. They're hanging on to where they
float.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, they still play a lot of that era too live.
Yeah.
They do.
I think you either have to change your sound drastically with a new frontman and write towards that specific singer's style of voice per se,
right?
Then it would, because a lot of bands too, they'll write the same and have a singer that can't fit the mold, so to speak, in terms of his vocal ability or his or hers, or so more often than not, you see more bands failing at this.
Yeah,
I would say.
Yeah, no, agreed. I guess it just depends on the project and who's about it and who isn't. Because I guess there are a lot of good examples of it working out. You just mentioned AC/DC. I keep forgetting that ever happened. Bon Scott into Brian Johnson. But that's because again, he's dead.
But they made arguably the biggest rock album of all time,
Back in Black. Yeah, with Brian Johnson. But then Highway to Hell was really good too.
I'm not saying it wasn't. I'm just saying in terms of sales go.
Oh yeah, that's up there.
It's like what, top 10 biggest rock albums or albums of all time.
You still can't get away from it all these years later. No. It's a part of, it's ingrained in the culture. Yeah.
And I'm wondering too, how much of an impact is it when a key member leaves? Not just a front man, but like a key member who wrote a majority of the stuff.
Well, there's examples of that with the Red Hot Chili Peppers, where with their different guitar players. It's a different album when Dave Navarro was their guitar player, when John Frusciante wrote all that with them, their first guitarist from when they first started out, that was a different band. And then Josh Klinghoffer, the one who just left and is now in Pearl Jam, by the way. Nobody's talking about that. That's weird.
And John Frusciante's back
with the Chili Peppers. So that's interesting. A good swap right there. Yeah. But it's a different album depending, and these are like key players. I read Anthony Kiedis' autobiography, and he talks about how it's a different vibe, but that's not necessarily a bad vibe because they all made really good albums. I really like the one with Dave Navarro. The ones with John Frusciante are my favorite ones, and Josh did a great job, I thought, with his attempts.
But that band is so eclectic, they can get away with it.
Yeah.
See, like I was listening to like early Def Leppard today. Thinking when Pete Willis left and they brought in Phil Collin, different dynamic, right? And obviously they made bigger albums with him, but I think the material really suffered not only when he left, and then years later Steve Clark died.
Yeah.
And then they brought in Vivian Campbell, and then they haven't made a record that's been relevant, in my opinion, since then. Since since Hysteria, which was when Steve Clark was still alive.
They've been struggling a little, yeah.
But they can live off the legacy of the first 4 albums because of the radio play.
Especially if they play them live and, for fanfare and everything. People are still going to show up.
You're not going to see those bands to see the last 15 years of their career. You're going to see the first 10, I would say.
Yeah, so that's where the familiarity with the material goes a long way with people.
And as an artist, I'm wondering too, because I'm sure we've all either played in bands or just fans of music in general, how daunting it is to be in a band where you only can play your older material. You're like put in a box almost. It's probably like being famous in general.
And famously, I know that Radiohead wasn't playing their hits for the longest time, and people were hating them for it.
But they still went to the shows.
Yeah, I was one of those people once, and I'm like, I shouldn't have come here. I didn't recognize. They were playing all of their In Rainbows and weird shit that they're doing now. I don't know. That's not. I mean, change your name at that point, I guess. I don't know.
Interesting. So are those the same musicians that created all this? Oh, it's interesting. So change their name even though they're not playing the hits.
And I know that's part of the argument there or the discussion that we're having. How relevant or are they the same band if they drastically change their genre and style?
Of course,
because they are. I guess like doing business as but
You're gonna sit there and tell me that the first Bathory album is not the same Bathory as it's not the same band as their later material, even though they went into 50 different genres in that same band. It's still under the umbrella.
I'm not convinced myself, Tanner. I'm just trying to make an argument that it's just so disappointing that you're just like, am I even listening to the band I fell in love with anymore?
See, Tanner, there's something you need to learn about Joseph. He's how should I say? He's a very negative individual.
Yeah.
He sees a pair of underwear and he immediately looks for the skid marks.
Right.
At least they weren't wet this time. Unlike
you think.
Unlike our last conversation.
Oh yeah, that's true. That is true.
Now we know.
And knowing is half the battle.
You fucking figured me out, Josh.
Do you remember? Do you remember when the internet was the internet? Like right before it was like what we had
with AOL, with little AOL
Netscape Navigator status. Like, what are we talking about here?
I'm talking like you just played G.I. Joe.
Yeah.
E-Bombs World.
Oh yeah.
The best.
Those were the days.
The best.
It's Numa Numa, man. When Numa Numa was a hit. became a fucking part of a song, dude.
You probably don't want, unless you put on glasses, you probably don't want to say Numa Numa on the camera here.
Oh,
you might have to do the dance.
Someone can asphyxiate glasses on me.
Please, can a fan do that and send that over? That'd be so sick.
Do it.
Just make a meme out of it.
Yeah.
Do it.
With the song playing.
Yeah.
Jesus. All right. Anyway, we kind of went off on a lot of tangents.
That's
there.
what we do here.
Yeah. On Poppitt's Corner, right? Is that what the name of this show is? No. I want to talk more about your band, man. So yeah, we talked about the influences and all that good stuff. But what inspired the re-releases of the vinyl? Is it the 15-year anniversary?
Well, so we were doing it. It's kind of a label decision. So I'm not sure how much of the label stuff you want to get into with us, but essentially we were signed to No Life to Metal Records in 2020, when we had just recorded Charring the Rotting Earth and we were going to release it. And so the label, we got in touch with them. It's a super long story, but essentially I sent them one of our albums on vinyl.
Yeah.
They really loved it. Asked if if they could work with us on the next record, and essentially it was, I already had a record to go, so it's like, cool. It's super convenient. A label just approached us and wanted to work. Mm-hmm. We gave them the album, and it's obviously transpired into this beautiful kind of relationship. So after that whole thing started to do well for us, they wanted to reissue our catalog because it had never been put out on vinyl, mm-hmm. and they were all out of print. So all the records were out of print, and people were just asking, I guess, the label, a lot, and they, God bless them, they pressed it on CD and vinyl with bonus material that I had in my vault for fucking 10 years. So
there's like these are like bonus tracks that have never been released. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. So like this has like a disc 2 called Live Aquatic. It's just a full live record that we recorded at D Piazza's. Mm-hmm. And being in a band yourself, you can probably appreciate the fact of how important it is to get those soundboard recordings from venues, just to have it just in case, that say you
can share it with other fans.
And I know you have a record or two coming out or something like that.
We're just releasing singles.
But in due time, if you had an anniversary, you can
package it up and for sure.
If the band's not doing anything, you can release like a live record, and at least it's still keeping the name relevant.
Yeah.
So that's essentially what we did, was reissue after reissue, and now obviously I'm working on something. And I was working on it today. It's taken a long time to process this stuff. But yeah, I'm working on another project for the label as like a birthday present, or like a birthday present, I would say, to myself.
Okay.
Even though my birthday was months ago.
Yeah. Well, what is it? Are you allowed to say?
Well, I can't give out details. Just know that I went through boxes of just old photographs, putting this thing together in old flyers. So I probably just spoiled more than I should have, but you guys probably know where this is going.
Like a deluxe scrapbooky kind of...
Yeah, it's like a nice retrospective kind of thing for the diehards. Diehards of the band will want this in their collection. For completists.
Yeah.
So, and then obviously, as I was going through the photographs, I found a soundboard recording that I'm going to include that I've never heard of, never heard it in 10 years. Since it got recorded.
Do you remember recording it? Do you remember it happening?
No, didn't even know that I had it still.
Yeah.
I knew that it existed, didn't know where it was, because we moved 4 or 5 times, and things get lost. I'm sure you've lost posters or whatever in this room just from either moving or
my mind.
Isn't it nice to find those gems that you forgot? It's like a nice little present.
And as a fan,
treat,
let me ask you this: as a fan, your favorite band, if they released something that maybe wasn't the best, but it was still awesome that they released it, would you support that? If it was your favorite band and you'd never heard this shit before?
Of course, yeah.
So there you go.
It's either like a deep cut from their first years, or something that maybe got passed along, didn't make it onto the B-side, and now it's getting released.
Yeah.
I would love to hear something like that.
And you don't want it to get lost as musicians.
Right. Yeah.
You want everything to be as preserved as possible. So it's nice to get the opportunities and support behind you with having the label. So you might as well got to take advantage of it while you have it.
Yeah. No, that's good stuff, man. Well, we'll be playing some of that music coming up, but I wanted to now talk about Poppitt's Corner, man. So it's busy, right? I went over and recorded something probably, what was it, like January? It was early January. Yeah, I know.
God.
It was. And it still won't be out for like another 4 to 5 weeks? Explain yourself.
That's really why you want to join.
Let me just put it this way. I'm doing 5 interviews in 4 days this week.
Dang.
And you release once a week?
Yes.
Okay. So you got a catalog building up. Okay.
Dude.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. But it's needed.
Yeah.
And I love what you guys are doing here in documenting bands and not only just promoting yourselves, because there's this little selfishness to doing a podcast.
No question.
That's what it is.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Right? It's the stuff you want to talk about, right? But it's important to document what's going on here, because once it's gone, it's
yeah, gone. Man. Do you remember when MySpace erased everybody's fucking band profile? This was like 2 years ago. You had an entire generation of music wiped off the face of the earth.
With a click of a button.
With a click of a fucking button, man.
And then now we can get into why physical media is so important.
Yeah, no kidding. Man, that's an uphill battle, though. My car is a 2016 model. Doesn't even have a CD player anymore. 2016 was a little while ago.
That's why I won't buy a car without a CD player. I refuse to do it.
You can always adapt one in there if you want.
No, you can make them do it. If you're spending $20,000 on a fucking car, put a goddamn CD player in it. What does that cost? $200?
Can I get a vinyl player in there, you think?
Might skip a little.
You know what's coming back?
Put on
tape decks.
Oh,
yeah. That's right.
Yeah.
He got within the last couple years, I guess because everybody was cooped up at home, found these old tape decks. Why don't we bring these back?
Yeah. We have no device to play these on.
Whoa,
and then you got to order one from like some third world country.
Well, cassettes have been making a comeback for years and years and years. Just being in a band myself, I don't know how well everybody's kind of well versed in this.
I think the ones I've seen, ironically, have been put out ironically, but they've worked. Like, people are still purchasing them because it's a little piece of nostalgia, even if it's like a band that just came out and they put out a cassette. It's still pretty cool. Like, and it's just another piece of merchandise that they can get out. Yeah.
I'm waiting for the 8-track.
That one's hard to fucking get a device for, isn't it? I think I went to the only place I've ever seen one like in person was in Amoeba Music in not even the one in Hollywood, the one in Berkeley.
They have one.
Yeah, where you can because they have the 8-tracks there, and you can, I guess, play them before you buy them.
That's such a pain in the ass. I would never want that.
Yeah,
I don't know. That kind of nostalgia I would never. Same with cassettes. I'm not a cassette guy. Mm-hmm. I'm just not.
Well, I'm not either, but back in the day, I guess I was because everybody else was.
Sure.
But I remember, you still being able to pull out the artwork, kind of like a. I don't know if if you remember those, but and then they got lazy towards the end when CD started, coming up. But those early on, my cousins had like these Pearl Jam cassettes, and you can fold out the lyrics.
Oh yeah, that's what we do from Madrost. Mm-hmm. We purposely do like a 6-page fucking or 6-panel thing just to have some fun with it if people want to. That's always the fun stuff.
And then down the line, the industry got lazy, and they would just do the insert with the names of the titles of the songs on there, at least towards the end of it, if I remember correctly. And then CDs tried doing the same thing, and you can only fit so much paper in that little thing.
Now, I know we've discussed this on Poppitt's Corner, but for the audience and whatnot, why did you personally get into podcasting?
Well, the people have heard this story before, but I went to the desert with these guys, had some shrooms, and we were already discussing the possibility of recording something, on shrooms I was looking at the sky, and then all of a sudden things got quiet, and I said, you guys, I'm gonna do it. I'm going to start a podcast. And, the catalyst for that was the Foo buying me some microphones, some cheap microphones off of Wish. And I was like, oh, well, it looks like he's down. So then I never really used those microphones. So I already had some at my disposal, and we just set things up, hit up an acquaintance that I had a similar looking mixing board, and just kind of copied what he was recommending, and got rid of him shortly after.
Now, what was your overall goal to starting a podcast? Did you want to specifically just focus on bands, or focus, because this is like a fucking variety show?
Yeah, it's segmented for sure. Yeah, I wanted to talk about music. Personally, I wanted to talk about music and hyping up the local talent, and if we could get some national talent, that's really cool. That's yet to happen, but one day
it'll happen.
Yeah. And so and yeah, talk music, talk shit, because that's what we really were about. Every time people would come over, namely this guy's family, they would say, hey, you guys talk a lot of shit to each other, and it's pretty funny. Like, somebody should just record this. And I said, yeah. And then so that helped. And then, I'm just like, well, what do you guys want to talk about? He's really into comic books and sports, so let him kind of run with that. I'm into comic books and sports, but only because of them. So I'm not, I have a healthy knowledge of the stuff, but only secondhand.
And it's been a while since I've been here, so what does Steph bring more to the show now?
Yes, Steph. What do you bring more to the show?
Read us your curriculum vitae.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
I want your resume.
I do an annual health and such, the health state of the Foo Bar show.
It's very poor. Very poor health.
Very poor health.
Yeah. At least for one of us.
I provide I'm like the hype guy, so I like do the laughs in the back. You'll just hear me.
Right. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I've heard that before. Mm-hmm.
We just started a new segment called Doom Scrolling with Steph, so I'll just find like random stuff on the internet and kind of share it with them.
Yeah. Ironically, we won't have one today, though.
Yeah.
No, not today.
No, of course not.
And sometimes I try to instigate arguments between the guys.
Mm-hmm. It's not hard.
It's really not hard.
Not at all.
Not that hard to do.
So when is this show going to take a dive and not be here anymore now?
What do you mean?
Because now you guys are going to get in a fight and shit's just going to
Oh, dude, we've been fighting for several years. Yeah. If it hasn't ended now, I don't know when it will.
I think it's not going to happen.
Safe to say this will go on until one of us dies. Well, and then even after.
That's what I like to do with people I don't like. Just wear them down for years and years.
Yeah. So you know what? I'm not just going to not talk to you. I'm going to be one of your best friends, and I'm going to wear you down. Yeah. That's how you got Steph.
It's the long game, as we call it.
Yeah.
Well, it's been a fun segment so far.
Yeah. Thank you. So, all right, Poppitt's Corner, big old catalog. I won't be on for another month. What made you get started with Poppitt's Corner? Your love for metal music and people who play music, right? I mean, based on what I know, but is there more of a motivator behind it?
I've never been asked that before.
Mm-hmm.
That's a first, so thank you for that.
Yeah, man. So holding up a mirror to good old Tanner here.
That's right. The main reason why I got started in this was because out of frustration, I would see all these killer bands, in my respective genre of music, right? Because it was just show after show after show after show, and there was nobody documenting it. There was nobody interviewing the bands or so I was doing radio at KTST, FM Anaheim.com with my buddy Benny the Breeze for years, and then that thing fell apart, and then I didn't want to give up on it. So
was the Breeze because he has a lot of flatulence?
No.
Oh.
No, he's been doing it since the 90s or whatever.
Okay.
So he just had a radio spot. He needed a co-host, and he saw what I saw, and this whole community just not getting documented. There are no avenues for it.
His radio name is Broken Wind. Sorry.
There's a lot of broken wind here. Yeah.
And you put me right next to him. It's fine. Yeah. I could see where the show's going. So
it's fine, man. I didn't have beans today. You're okay.
But so basically, it was just out of frustration, and I think because there's so much material out there, that's why I'm so backed up on shit, because the show's obviously being enjoyed by more and more people. So I keep getting.
And you're a part of a network now.
Yeah. The CMSPN. The CMS is a classic metal show. It's a podcast I've loved for years, and when I got the opportunity to work with them, it was like, because to me they're like the best of the best. So it's like, oh, cool, I must be in with that whole crowd. Not that it's saying I am or not. That's kind of a little biased, and I let the audience decide that.
Okay.
So, but my also
I'm gonna say yes.
But my main focus too was to ask better questions, because I was, as a as a guy in a band, would always get these. They're called essays.
Yeah.
There's literally like 10 or 12 of the same bullshit questions you would get in every fucking interview. So if you're doing 13 of them for
you're on autopilot, it's not so exciting.
Dude, and I hated English and I hated doing essays. So the podcasting thing was like, let's just have a conversation and allow me the opportunity to ask tougher questions and get down really to the nitty gritty, because I didn't see a lot of our peers doing that respectfully. Obviously, I had no idea of this show at the time, but this is 2018. So it's like, it's already been 4 years in this point. So obviously the big name guys have the big kind of, what would you say, media, so to speak, like the
cachet.
Well, yeah, they have there's just more media focused on the bigger name bands, but the underground had nothing. I felt.
No, yeah. And that's also my motivator for wanting to talk about music on this show. Even if it's a day where we don't have a guest, I wanted to still hype up some music that I discovered, that maybe not everybody's talking about yet, that not necessarily is local or local to me. We've had shows as far as from like Ohio, or some bands, be on the podcast. So, we try to get some different flavors in here. Doesn't necessarily even have to be something that I would normally listen to either.